I'm Lucas Bennett, 35 years old, and I've been a security guard for nearly a decade. It's not the kind of job people dream about, but it suits me. Quiet, orderly, and most of the time, nothing happens. With the seniority and a stack of advanced security certifications, I sit higher than most colleagues and get priority in picking shifts. I used to think I was prepared for anything I might face. Until the night at the Government Biomedical Research Center in Montana. In 2025, my company signed a major contract to manage security for that facility. The building, a 7-story block of cold gray concrete standing alone among the pines, sat deep in a remote area, far from any sign of life. Around it was a 4-meter barbed wire fence fitted with vibration sensors, enclosing a vast parking lot. The sole main gate led to a dirt road 8 kilometers long that connected to the highway. Beyond the fence was forest, and beyond the forest, only fog, wind, and silence. Normally, I worked mornings or afternoons and had weekends off. But the company was struggling to staff the night shift, especially Saturday nights, when only a single guard was on duty. After a few weeks, my supervisor, Harper, was practically begging me to cover to patch the schedule. I just bought a new house and was worried about the mortgage payments, so I agreed, telling myself it was only temporary. The first 2 weeks were uneventful. Wind hissing through the trees, indicator lights blinking on the control panel, and a heavy isolation draped over everything. But on the 3rd week, a night when an autumn storm rose up fierce, everything changed. Around 1:15 a.m., I was in the 7th floor security control room. It was a small space, its walls lined with bullet-resistant steel, with a single window looking out over the rear parking lot. 5 CCTV monitors in front of me displayed key areas: the corridors, the elevators, the main gate, the lot, and the basement. I was typing up the shift report, headphones playing low music to help me stay alert. Outside, thunder rolled. Wind howled through the pines, and the rain came down in sheets. A lightning bolt split the sky, tearing it open. In the instant that light swept across the forest beyond the fence, I saw 4 figures, pitch black, moving quickly between the trunks, less than 10 meters from the fence. Not wind, not tree shadows, people. I held my breath, eyes fixed on the window, waiting for the next flash. When it came, the forest was empty, only swaying pines and a white wall of rain. I stood there, heart pounding. Part of me tried to rationalize it. Maybe forest rangers, or a trick of the lightning. But a very clear feeling crept into my gut. The kind of instinct you get only when something is truly wrong. I keyed the radio to hail the nearest security frequency. Only static answered. To steady myself, I stood up, stretched, then headed down to the 4th floor to grab an energy drink from the vending machine. The hallway was long and dark. The emergency lights cast a faint red glow that made everything look like the inside of a human heart. My shoes sounded softly against the concrete floor, my heartbeat blending with the wind howling outside the windows. I grabbed a can of drink, popped it open, and finished it on the way back. Not even 7 minutes. When I returned to the control room, I immediately knew something was wrong. One of the 5 CCTV monitors flickered and went dark. The rear parking lot camera had lost signal, leaving only white static. I looked out the window. In a flash of lightning, I saw the exterior camera dangling, its cable cleanly cut, as if by a knife. It couldn't have been the wind. My heart pounded harder, sweat beading despite the cold room. I logged it in the shift notebook, marking camera malfunction, but my hand was trembling slightly. Another thunderclap boomed, followed by the heavy thrum of rain lashing the glass. 5 minutes later, the alarm system emitted a piercing beep. A red light blinked on the control panel. The basement side door had just been opened with a valid code. I looked at the monitor. The green light confirmed it. The code was correct. The door was open. A chill ran down my spine. No one was scheduled tonight. No one but me. I tried calling the company line. No signal. Tried my phone. No service. I glanced up at the corner. The little antenna was still lit, but the signal was being jammed. Montana has plenty of dead zones, but right now, I pulled up the basement camera. Only darkness, mist drifting through the crack of the open door. Then a sound slipped in, the whisper of a voice through the surveillance mic. Broken, distorted, like a low male voice over a radio. "He's upstairs. Check the stairwell." I went numb. My breath snagged in my throat. There was no doubt now, these weren't staff, weren't technicians. This was an organized intrusion. I locked the control room door tight and drew the handgun from the holster at my hip. I'd been trained to use it, but I'd never really thought I would have to pull the trigger. Then the power to the entire building cut out. The screens went black. The fans went still, leaving room for a chilling silence. Only the red emergency light from the hallway bled across the window like a smear of blood. Outside, the storm wind howled like a wild animal. I could feel my heartbeat pounding in my chest, each thud heavy. I knew I had to get out of there. The stairwell was the only way. The elevator stops when the power goes. I opened the stairwell door. The air was thick with the smell of metal and mildew. I moved very slowly, the gun's grip ice cold in my hand, each step sinking into the dense night. Down there was the basement, where someone had just come in. I was about to turn back when I heard it. Very faint, but unmistakable. The basement door opening. Then footsteps, one step at a time. Heavy, rhythmic. Not just one person, at least three. I heard a radio crackle amid the rain. "Find him. Don't let him get out." I shuddered. That wasn't just an instruction, it was aimed at me. I spun and ran back up, my footsteps echoing. On the 5th floor, I accidentally knocked the gun against the iron railing, a clang ringing out. Instantly, the footsteps below fell silent. A long beat of quiet, and then they came again. All at once, faster, harder. They were in pursuit. I ran like a madman, heart hammering, breath burning my throat. At the 7th floor, I shoved the door open and let it slam, hoping the noise would throw them off. I climbed the iron ladder to the roof hatch and hid in the dark space between levels. Below, the stairwell door burst open. Shoes slammed down hard, then stopped. Someone was listening. 7th floor, he's on 7. The man's voice came over the radio again, close enough that I could hear his breathing. I held my breath, gun aimed downward, sweat dripping from my chin to the floor with a soft tack. The footsteps changed direction. They headed toward the control room. I heard the door being kicked, hinges snapping. Metal slammed against the wall. I didn't wait. I slid off the ladder, sprinted to the other stairwell at the far end of the corridor, and ran flat out. Footsteps pounded close behind, punctuated by shouts. "He's going down! Block the lobby!" I tore past the 5th, 4th, 3rd floors. The corridors dim, the faint red light making everything look like it was smoldering. The rain and wind blended with the chase behind me, echoing like a death march. I heard metal scraping along a wall, a blade or a gun. I couldn't tell. Every clang felt like a cut straight into my nerves. As I hit the 2nd floor, I heard a slip and a pained groan. One of them had fallen. I didn't stop. I lunged for the lobby, swiped my card to unlock the door. The automatic door clicked, and I shoved it open. Cold wind and rain slapped my face. I sprinted across the parking lot, my shoes skidding on the wet concrete, my vision blurred by rain. Behind me, the lobby doors burst open. In a flash of lightning, I saw 3 figures in black charging out. One raised a rifle and aimed straight at me. A shot cracked the air. I dove, feeling a hot breath of air graze my ear. The round punched into a truck's windshield, spiderwebbing the glass. I yanked the door open, threw myself into the cab, and turned the key. The engine roared, the tires shrieked. I floored it, tearing down the winding dirt road through the forest, the gunshots behind me mingling with thunder. I didn't dare check the rearview mirror. All I knew was that I had to run, even with my heart about to explode. Near the highway, my phone signal came back. I called 911, practically shouting through ragged breaths, reporting an armed break-in. They told me to stop at the nearest gas station and wait for a unit to arrive. 20 minutes later, I returned with the police. The storm was still ripping through the trees, but the building stood there as if nothing had happened. No more sign of anyone, just mud and rain washing away everything. They swept the place, every floor cold and empty. Only in the basement, where the door was still open. Did they find a few things? An unregistered rifle, a dagger with Bennett carved into the handle, and a palm-sized electronic signal jammer placed right next to the electrical cabinet. Now I understood why the phones and the line had died at the same time. They also found a smear of blood on the stairwell. Someone had been injured while chasing me. But the group had vanished. No tire tracks, no footprints, no usable camera footage. Every part of the surveillance system had been cleanly taken out. After that night, I requested to be taken off the night shift. Harper said they'd beefed up security, but I never went back. I kept working, but whenever a storm kicks up, I'm back on the 7th floor in my head, hearing footsteps echo through the stairwell and that low voice over the radio repeating, slow, broken, as if echoing from memory. He won't get away. I still lock my doors every night, check the cameras before I sleep. And sometimes, when the wind tears through the woods behind my house, I swear I hear metal scraping against a wall, the sound from that night. The sound of those men still looking for me in the dark. My name is Alara Thorne. I've worked for my security company for nearly 9 years, starting out as a basic patrol officer and gradually moving up thanks to intensive training in surveillance and emergency response. In 2025, my company signed a large contract to protect a high-tech research tower on the outskirts of California, a site used by the government for secret projects involving AI and data. The tower, 8 stories tall, all modern glass and steel, stood isolated in a barren desert area, nearly 10 miles from the nearest city. Around it stretched a vast parking lot, protected by a 3.5-meter electrified fence with motion sensors, with only a single main gate leading to a long strip of asphalt connected to the highway. Beyond the fence, there was nothing but sand and scrub. No houses, no gas stations, just howling wind and the desert's night fog. With my seniority, I usually took day or evening shifts and kept weekends free for my family. But the company had a serious problem. Night shifts, especially on weekends, were desperately understaffed because the tower was so isolated and there were rumors of strange incidents. lights flickering for no reason or whispers coming from the ventilation system. My supervisor, Mr. Reyes, practically begged me to cover Saturday nights for extra pay, promising double wages. I needed money to fix my roof after a recent storm, so although I hesitated, I agreed, thinking it would just be a few temporary weeks. The first 2 weeks went smoothly, only the desert wind hissing through the fence and the cold glow of camera monitors. But on the third night, a violent sandstorm turned the shift into a prolonged nightmare that nearly cost me my life. Around 1 a.m., I was in the security control room on the 8th floor, which had a pane of reinforced glass looking out over the parking lot and the desert beyond. The room was equipped with 6 CCTV screens showing the corridors, elevators, entry-exit gate, parking lot, basement, and sensitive areas like the server room. I was reviewing the shift report on my laptop, light rock in my headphones to stave off sleepiness, when a flash of lightning from the approaching storm lit up the desert beyond the fence. In that instant, I saw 5 figures moving quickly among the scrub, about 8 meters from the fence. They wore desert camouflage and moved in formation, like a professional team approaching a target. I froze, eyes glued to the window, waiting for the next flash to confirm. When the light flared again, there was no one, only dust whipping through the wind. I told myself it was fatigue or lightning playing tricks on my eyes, but my instincts said otherwise. To steady myself, I stood, stretched, and decided to go down to the 5th floor to grab an energy drink from the vending machine. The hallway was dim, lit only by pale green emergency lights at the corners, and the storm's wind outside howled like a monster. I finished the can on my way back to the control room, about 8 minutes. When I returned, I immediately noticed 2 CCTV screens flickering. The rear parking lot camera and the basement camera were down, nothing but snow. I checked the window and saw a camera dangling by its mount, its cable cleanly cut with a specialized tool, not by the storm. My heart started to race. This wasn't an accident. I logged an urgent incident report, but before I could send it, the alarm sounded. A sharp beep from the control panel, indicating someone was entering a code at the basement side door near the parking lot. The screen showed a green light. The code was correct, the door was open. A chill ran down my spine. No staff were scheduled tonight, and other guards always notified in advance. I tried calling the office landline, but the line was dead. No signal. My cell phone was useless too. Screen reading, no service. The area was known for dead zones due to government jamming equipment, but now that only made me feel trapped in a cage. I checked the basement corridor camera. Only darkness and sand dust drifting through the newly opened side door. No clear image, but I heard whispering through the camera's audio, low, distorted, as if over comms. He's on an upper floor. Check the stairwell. Grab the data fast. My heart seemed to stop. These weren't staff or technicians. This was an organized break-in, likely targeting the server room with sensitive biomedical data. I locked the control room door and took the handgun from the holster at my hip, something I'd been trained to use, but never thought I'd need. My hand trembled slightly as I checked the rounds, trying to stay calm. But fear surged at the thought of facing an armed group alone. Suddenly, power to the entire building cut out. The CCTV screens went black, and only the faint red emergency lights spilled through the window, along with the storm's howling outside. I decided to run down to the main lobby to get to my truck, parked right by the entrance. The stairwell was my only option, since the elevators don't work during an outage. I opened the stairwell door. Darkness pooled like ink, and only the squeak of my shoes on the steps marked my movement. I stepped lightly, knowing the generator room was in the basement. If the intruders had cut the power, they could be down there and might have shut off the backup alarm system as well. By the 6th floor, I heard the basement door swing open, followed by heavy, steady footsteps coming up. Not just one person, there were at least 3 or 4 distinct footfalls, along with muttered voices over radios. Find him. Don't let him call for help. Pull the hard drives on 4. I froze, gripping the gun tighter, but the thought of firing made me falter. I wasn't sure I was ready to confront an organized team. I turned back and ran up to the 8th floor, thinking of the roof hatch, an emergency exit that led to the exterior fire escape. But as I ran, my gun struck the metal handrail, letting out a ringing clang. The footsteps below stopped, then suddenly accelerated, stomping the steps like predators, accompanied by a shout. He heard us! Block the stairs! I sprinted flat out, my heart about to burst. On the 8th floor, I shoved the hallway door hard and let it slam, hoping to throw them off. I climbed the ladder to the roof hatch and stopped just beneath it, hiding in the dark. The chasing footsteps reached the floor, opened the hallway door, then paused as if searching. Through the crack, I heard muttering. Where'd he go? Check the control room. Shoot if you see him. I held my breath and listened to boots slam against the control room door, tools scraping at the lock, metal against metal, sharp and grating. Suddenly, the footsteps returned to the stairwell, charging up toward me. I dropped from the ladder and flew down the stairs as fast as I could, each step a wager with my life. Their steps pounded after me, always about a floor behind, with shouts over the radios, "He's going down! Block the lobby! Take the shot if needed!" I burst through the 5th floor door, ran along the pitch-dark hallway searching for an emergency window exit, but found only cold concrete walls and the storm battering the glass. The footsteps were closer now, and I heard metal scraping along the wall, like a blade or a long gun, along with ragged breathing. On the 3rd floor, I heard a hard fall and a groan. One of them slipped on stairs made wet by rain blown in through the gaps. I didn't stop. I tore through the main lobby, my hand shaking as I swiped my card to unlock the gate door. A click sounded. I shoved it open and hurled myself outside, rain needling my face. My truck was parked 30 meters away. I sprinted across the lot, tires half submerged in slick mud, and heard the lobby doors open behind me. In a flash of lightning, I saw 4 figures in black, wearing tactical masks, charging out. One raised a rifle, aimed at me, and fired. The round grazed my shoulder, tearing my jacket and drawing blood. I dove into the truck, hit the start button, and floored it. The tires screamed on the wet surface as I shot down the service road. 2 more shots cracking. One round shattered the rear view, webbing the glass. Another hit the rear tire and made the truck lurch. I didn't look back, just focused on the winding road, praying I wouldn't skid off into the roadside drop. Near the highway, my phone got a signal again. I called 911, almost shouting into the receiver, reporting the break-in, gunfire, and that I'd been shot. The police told me to stop at the nearest gas station and wait, but I didn't. I drove straight to a hospital 20 miles away, my shoulder burning and blood soaking my shirt. 20 minutes later, the SWAT team and police reached the tower with me after my wound was bandaged. The rain was still pounding down, but there was no trace of the intruders. They searched floor by floor and found an unregistered rifle, a dagger with Bennett carved into the handle, and an electronic signal jammer in the basement, explaining the loss of cell service. The cameras had been completely destroyed, leaving no footage. But in the stairwell they found blood and a torn piece of a black mask, indicating one suspect was injured. Police suspect the group were industrial spies or or terrorists targeting sensitive AI data. But no one knows how they got the door code or how they knew my name. I resigned just a week later, but the haunting hasn't left me. The company increased security, but a few months afterward, I received anonymous late-night calls, a distorted voice whispering, "Bennett, we're not finished." The police traced them, but found nothing. Even now, every gale of wind brings back the memory of footsteps and the muttered radio order. Take the shot if needed. I check my locks every night, installed cameras at home, and sometimes, in my dreams, I see the eyes behind those masks, as if they're still hunting me in the desert dark. Camping trips always bring excitement, but one time in the Sierra Nevada left an indelible mark. I'm Noah Carter, 29, and in 2025, I had just started working as a mobile security guard for a security company in the suburbs of Seattle, Washington. It was my first job in the field, and the night it happened was my very first trainee shift. That summer, I decided to leave the city to seek peace in nature. But instead of relaxing, the trip turned into a prolonged nightmare. One that still makes me shiver when I remember the sounds echoing out of the dark. That night, I was working with my supervisor, Marcus, a friendly, experienced guy who patiently taught me how to patrol, file reports, and handle alarm systems. Normally, if an alarm went off, dispatch would contact us over the radio and order us to the scene immediately. But that night, we went to a clinic to conduct a routine perimeter patrol. No alarms had been recorded. We arrived around 1 a.m., planning to do a quick check and move on to the next site. But the moment we pulled up in front of the 3-story building with tinted glass and a gray tile roof, everything felt off. As soon as I stepped out of the patrol car, I noticed two unusual things. First, the side underground garage door was wide open, though it should have been securely locked at night. Second, the front entrance had been forced. The glass frame was shattered, fragments scattered across the steps as if smashed with something heavy. Standing beside me, Marcus muttered, "What the hell? The alarm system should have gone off." I was confused. This was my first shift. But according to Marcus, this clinic was a new contract, and the security system was supposed to be top of the line. We drew our flashlights and batons and entered cautiously, our beams sweeping across the pitch-black lobby. Suddenly, Marcus pointed to the elevator panel in the lobby. "Look, the elevator's moving." I turned to see the floor indicator blinking, up from the basement, G1, to the first floor, the second, then stopping at the third, the top floor. My heart pounded. I asked, "Is someone in here?" Marcus nodded, pulled his radio, and checked with dispatch. But there was no scheduled work logged for that night. He whispered, "Stay tight on me. Something's not right." My stomach clenched, adrenaline surged, and for the first time, I regretted taking this job. We got into the elevator and hit the button for the third floor. As it rose, I couldn't stop imagining worst-case scenarios. What if the doors opened and someone, or something, was standing right there, gun in hand, or worse? I gripped my baton tight, trying to stay calm, but my breathing sped up. Even seasoned Marcus looked tense, eyes fixed on the panel. When the elevator dinged and the doors opened on the third floor, no one was there. Just a dark corridor with faint red emergency lights flickering in the corners. We switched on our flashlights and started clearing rooms one by one. Dental clinic, lab, administrative offices. Everything was empty. But the air was icy, and the smell of cleaning chemicals mixed with something metallic made me shudder. Marcus whispered, "Stick close. If there's some bastard here, we'll take him down." I nodded, though all I wanted was to head back to the car and leave. We finished checking the 3rd floor and found no one. But as we turned back toward the elevator, I heard footsteps, fast, heavy, coming from the stairwell at the end of the hall. Marcus signaled for silence, and we moved toward the stairwell door, ready to open it. But just then, the footsteps stopped, and silence settled over everything. Only our ragged breathing remained. Marcus gripped his radio, his voice unsteady. "A4 calling C25. Dispatch requesting urgent backup. There's a suspect in the building, possibly on the ground floor or in the basement, potentially armed and lying in wait." The dispatcher replied, "Hold your position. Do not engage. Backup is en route." I could feel Marcus panicking, which only made me more afraid. He was the seasoned one, supposed to be steady, but clearly this was beyond both our limits. I whispered, "Bro, stay calm. Backup will be here any minute." But in my head, I was afraid the suspect already knew we were there. If he was on the ground floor or in the basement, he could block our way to either the elevator or the stairs. The elevator chime would give away our position, while the stairwell might lead us straight to him. We stood motionless, flashlights sweeping across the stairwell door, waiting for any sound. 10 minutes crawled by like hours, every creak of the building making me jump. At last, the main entrance on the ground floor opened, the sound echoing upward. Marcus keyed his radio. "Security here. Who is it?" A senior supervisor's voice, Mr. Daniels, answered. "Daniels, hold position. We're coming up." He arrived with 2 other guards, equipped with handguns and body armor. They led us in a sweep of every floor, from the 3rd down to the basement. But we found no one. The rooms were empty, no signs of disturbance, except for the shattered front door and the open underground garage. While we were checking the 2nd floor, the main entrance opened again, followed by the sound of footsteps sprinting out, fast as the wind. We rushed down to the lobby, but by the time we got there, the suspect was gone. Daniels checked the security cameras, but all of them had been disabled. The monitors were nothing but static. In the underground garage, we found a dagger left on the floor, its blade crudely etched with the word Carter. No footprints, no blood, no other trace. The police arrived 15 minutes later and searched the area, but they didn't find the suspect. They suspected a break-in targeting the clinic's drug storage. But the fact that they knew my name and had disabled the cameras pointed to careful preparation. I refused night shifts at that clinic after the incident, even though the company tightened security. Marcus also asked for a transfer, admitting he'd never seen anything so strange. A week later, I received a text from an unknown number. "Carter, the night isn't over." I reported it to the police, but the number couldn't be traced. To this day, every set of footsteps at night brings back the sound of running on those stairs, and I never patrol alone anymore. I don't know whether it was human or something else, but the feeling of being hunted in the clinic's darkness still haunts me, like a whisper from the basement, waiting for me to come back.
I see.